Chapter 1. Logan. The keyboard was the only thing that made sense anymore. Fingers hammering across it like a pianist on speed. I unleashed strings of code into the digital ether. They called me Logan Robinson, hacker extraordinaire with a side of IT consulting. But here in Meningie, the extraordinaire part didn't pay bills. Rent was due. Fridge was empty. My bank account was a joke without a punchline. Pucker, I muttered, staring at the screen where another rejection email blinked back at me. Work was scarce. Clients were scarcer. Dust gathered on invoices like snowfall in hell. I slumped back in my chair, a creaky relic that groaned under my weight. Once upon a time, I typed up secrets for intelligence officers. Fast, furious, and with the kind of precision that could land you in a cell if even one letter was out of place. Now, the most action my fingers got was Control-Alt-Delete when my ancient rig decided to give up the ghost. Come on, Logan, I urged myself. Think. The walls of my cramped office closed in. The hum of the single fluorescent light above was a taunt. I needed an angle, a way out. Something more than just scraping by in this washed-up town that people drive through on their way to somewhere better. Maybe a drink will help, I mumbled, but the thought died as soon as it hit the air. Beer cost money, and money was what I didn't have. Great. The word was a puff of frustration. I leaned forward, elbows digging into the desk, face buried in hands that had once been considered weapons by the Australian government. Weapons now rusting in disuse. A sigh escaped, dragging the weight of despair along with it. There had to be something I could do, some line of code or backdoor that I hadn't tried. But every scheme seemed as fleeting as the digits running through my mind. In the silence of my office, the whispered suggestion crept from the shadowed corners of my conscience. Use what you have. Use what you know. But the moral compass that still spun wildly within me knew the implications. Get a grip, I said aloud, voice rough with self-reproach. You're better than that. But was I? Desperation was a beast with sharp teeth gnawing away at principles. With each passing day, those teeth sank deeper until what was right and wrong blurred like my vision after too many hours glued to the monitor. Survival, I whispered, the word hanging heavy in the air. It wasn't just friendship that kept you alive in rural Australia. It was cunning. It was grit. And maybe, just maybe, it was being willing to cross lines I'd drawn in the sand long ago. I glanced back at the screen, at the throbbing cursor that awaited my command. It was time to make choices. Dangerous choices. But the alternative was a slow death in a dead-end town. Okay, Logan, I spoke to the reflection in the darkened window. Let's dance with the devil one more time. The screen's glow died as I killed the power. My reflection faded into the night, pressing against the window. The phone buzzed. Dan again. Third time tonight. Hey, I answered, already on my feet. Logan, I need you. His voice was a rasping whisper, like sandpaper dragged across raw wood. Where are you? I grabbed my keys and wallet. Out back of the pub, in the alley. I was out the door, the cool night slapping some sense into me. Meningie slept, but trouble didn't. Dan and I went back, way back. Schoolyard scraps and shared secrets. I was best man at his wedding with Sarah. I stayed drinking beer and sparkling wine with him until sunrise the day they moved into the house they finally owned themselves. He was more brother than friend. That bond, it doesn't snap easily. The pub's neon sign buzzed its drunken lullaby. Down the alley, Dan leaned against the wall, a broken figure. His silhouette shuddered with every sob. Dan, I said, my voice steady, talk to me. He lifted his head, eyes hollow. It's Lily's birthday tomorrow. Or would have been. Damn. What do you say? I mean, sorry as a spit in the ocean. I leaned beside him, shoulder to shoulder. We stared at nothing together. Sarah won't talk about her, won't even say her name. His fist hit the wall, a dull thud. And that goddamn farm just keeps on going, like Lily never happened. Like she never mattered, I added, the acid rising in my throat. Exactly. He wiped his face, sniffed hard. But she did, Logan. She did to us. Of course she did. The words were heavy, like they were carved from part of my soul. Remember when we used to sneak onto old McGregor's property? He chuckled bitterly. Lily had that same fire. Got us into enough trouble, I said, a smile trying to break through. She was just like us. Was, he repeated. And there it was, that word, a full stop, an end. Come on, I nudged his arm. Let's get you home. Home, he mumbled, as we shuffled towards the promise of light spilling from his front porch. Yeah. Survival, mate, that's what it's about, I murmured, more to myself than to him. But it was true for both of us. Friendship wasn't just about the good times. It was about holding each other up when the rest of the world seemed intent on knocking you down. Survival, he echoed. And somehow I knew we weren't just talking about making it through another night. We were talking about making it through life with all its punches and curveballs. And right now, survival meant shouldering some of Dan's grief, if only for a moment, so he could catch his breath before the next wave hit. I scanned the farm's digital blueprint, my fingers dancing across the keyboard. They thought they were secure, firewords, passwords, all a joke to someone like me. I found their weak spot, security cameras running on outdated software. Easy in, I muttered. The plan was simple, a small-scale theft, enough to sting, not enough to kill. Their payroll system was the target. I'd slip in, reroute the funds, slip out. No one could notice until it was too late. But if I got caught, it wasn't just me on the line. Dan couldn't handle another blow. Risks, I said. The word hung in the air, a reminder that every piece of action had its price. I weighed them, calculated. Getting caught meant jail, but doing nothing meant watching Dan's spirit wither. I couldn't live with that, not again. Let's do this. It was midnight. The world outside was quiet, asleep, perfect for ghosts and thieves. I opened my laptop. My hands hovered over the keys. This was more than a job. It was personal. A silent apology to a girl who'd never grow up. A vow to a friend who'd lost his world. Here we go, I said, and dove into their system. The security was laughable. I bypassed the login screen with a few strokes. The camera feeds flickered on my monitor. I killed them one by one, plunging the farm into digital darkness. No eyes on me, no evidence. Step one, done. My voice cut through the silence. Now for the money. The payroll was tucked away behind layers of encryption. Child's play. I slipped through the barriers as if they were made of smoke. Numbers lined up on my screen. Wages waiting for transfer. Gotcha. With a few commands, I redirected the flow. The money danced to my tune, slipping away from the farm's grasp. Not enough to bankrupt them, but enough to bite. A warning shot, an act of defiance. Transfer complete, the words blinked back at me. I leaned back, heart hammering. It was done. I'd crossed the line, but there was no going back now. For better or worse, I'd changed the game, done my part, fought back against the senseless tragedy that had torn through Dan's life. Justice, I breathed. It wasn't mine to deliver, but I'd taken a shot at it. Maybe it was foolish, maybe it was righteous. Either way, it was done. Lily's memory deserved that much. Logan, Dan's voice could come at any moment. He wouldn't say much, but his eyes would ask the questions. Did you do it? Did you make them pay? Ready for the fallout, I answered the silence. The next move was theirs. I'd be waiting, always one step ahead. For Dan, for Lily, for the fragments of peace we scraped together in the harsh light of loss and loyalty. The screen glowed. Money was gone. My pulse settled, a job well done. Justice served in bytes and codes. I stared at the empty coffee cup on my desk, feeling the weight of satisfaction. Lily would never come back, but this was for her, for Dan, for Sarah. I'd struck where it hurt. I'd given them a taste of loss. Morning broke. News travelled fast in Meningie. Whispers turned to shouts. The farm's accounts drained. They scrambled, confused, angry, heads rolled. Security teams barked orders, traced transactions. Dead ends. I watched from the shadows, a ghost in the wires. Robinson did this, they said, but they had no proof, just suspicions. A skilled hacker, a convenient scapegoat. Their eyes on me now, watching, waiting for a slip-up. Careful, Dan warned, his voice low. He knew the stakes as well as I did. Always am. I kept it cool, collected, couldn't afford mistakes. The farm tightened security, upgraded system, brought in experts. Too little, too late. I was untouchable, a phantom with a cause. Think they'll hit back? Dan asked. We sat in his dusty living room, the silence heavy between us. Maybe, I shrugged, but I'm ready. Thanks, mate. His hand on my shoulder, solid, real. Friendship was survival out here. We were in this together, through thick and thin, two mates against the world, against injustice. Anytime, I said. That was the truth. Consequences loomed on the horizon, but we stood firm, for Lily, for each other. In the rugged heart of rural Australia, it was all we had. The screen blinked off. The room's darkness pressed in, thick and heavy. Silence swallowed the click-clack of keys that had filled the space moments before. I leaned back in my chair, the old leather creaking under my weight. A sigh escaped me, mingled with the dust floating in the faint light. Done, I muttered to myself, a smirk tugging at one corner of my mouth. A sense of victory, warm and heady. They felt a sting today, felt what it was like to lose something precious. Lily's face flashed in my mind. Innocence, gone too soon. My heart clenched. Satisfaction waned. Justice or vengeance? The question hung in the air, unanswered. I pushed up from the chair, paced the room. Hard wooden floorboards beneath my feet groaned their own discomfort. I stopped at the window, peered out at the quiet streets of Meningie. Dawn cast long shadows over everything, even heroes. Was it worth it, Logie? My own reflection stared back, questioning. Blonde hair, acne scars, a warrior's marks. Or a fool's? Damn right it was, defiance edged my voice. But doubt crept in, sneaky-like. Guilty conscience? Dan would see through any facade. He always did. Our bond, deeper than the lake outside town, anchored us both. But this, could it sever ties? I shuddered at the thought. Dan doesn't deserve this fallout, I whispered. He ran those streets every evening, a man in motion, trying to outrun grief. Fit, focused, but blind to the digital war I waged. Friendship's one thing, survival's another. I spoke to no one, to the night itself. Won't let him down, not now. The plan was solid, had to be, no other choice. I'd covered tracks, masked trails, but they'd come looking. Sharp suits, sharper questions. I'd have to be ready. For the farm, for the law, for Dan. Stakes are high, mate. Dan's imagined voice was a comfort. Always are, I replied to the ghost. Can't turn back now, I stared at my hands. tools of trade, weapons of war. Could feel the keyboard beneath them still. Did it for Lily, for justice, I repeated the mantra. Believed it too, mostly. Repercussions will come, a statement of fact. We'll face them together. The sky lightened, a new day unfurling, unstoppable, much like the consequences heading my way. Whatever happens, we stick together. My promise to the dawn, to Dan, to myself. Survival, friendship, it's all entwined here. In the rugged expanse of rural Australia, we were all each other had. Survival, friendship, it's all entwined here. In the rugged expanse of rural Australia, we were all each other had. Stick together, I said again, conviction building. Ready for what comes next. A final nod to the empty room. The first sliver of light cut through the blinds, slicing the darkness of the room into bands of grey. Morning was a quiet affair in Meningie. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the town to wake. I booted up my computer, a familiar hum, a backdrop to the hammering thoughts. The screen flickered to life, its glow the only light in the room. Emails loaded, one after another. Junk, mostly. Scrolling down. Then an anomaly. A message with no subject from an encrypted sender. Fingers paused. Clicked. Logan Robinson, we need to talk. A chill ran down my spine. No signature, no pleasantries, just cold, hard text on a white screen. Could be anyone. A client, the law, worse. My heart raced. Who's asking? I typed back, keeping it brief. No sense giving anything away. Check the news. 3 words and a link. Nothing more. A trap? Possibly. Curiosity overruled caution. Click. Local farm reports major security breach, blared the headline on the advertiser's website. Beneath it, a photo of the farm's owner, face twisted in rage. I scrolled. Details scant, losses unreported. But the last line caught me. Authorities are investigating, and sources say they have a lead. I was the lead. It had to be. The message, the article, too close to coincidence. Heart thumped like a drum beat in my chest. They were on to me. Got your attention, I see. Another message popped up. Instant. Like the sender knew. They were watching, waiting. Meet me. Noon. Old pier. Who exactly am I meeting? I shot back, fingers tapping rapidly. Friend or foe? That's for you to decide. The chat ended abruptly. Screen back to the inbox. No new messages, just the digital echo of the conversation that would decide my fate. Choices. Dan's voice rang in my head. Always there when I needed grounding. Well, looks like I've got a date at the pier, I said aloud, as if he could hear. Be careful, the imagined response. Always am. The lie tasted bitter. Noon felt like years away, yet too soon all the same. I stood, stretched, the weight of the decision heavy on my shoulders. Meet a potential ally or walk into a setup? Stick together, I muttered, grabbing my jacket. The leather felt cold, solid. Whatever comes next, I said to my reflection, pausing at the door. Eyes met eyes. We're ready. I stepped out, the door clicking shut behind me. The air was sharp, a reminder that the world was awake now, and so were the dangers. Here goes nothing. I started towards destiny or demise, the line between them blurring with each step.